Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Last week we spent our last day in the Chobe before making our way over the border towards Namibia, where we entered the Caprivi and spent 2 nights at Camp Kwandu. From there we made our way to Okacuito Camp, where we had 2 more relaxing days next to the river, just enjoying ourselves. So stay tuned and travel with us this week further on our adventure. We had a nice relaxing start to the day, having a nice coffee and breakfast before we got back on the road. Today we didn't have a long drive, we just had about 100 kilometers of driving to do from Okacuito to Okacuito Camp. We made a quick stop at Devundu for some supplies before making our way to Okacuito. And it wasn't long before we turned off the tar road and followed the gravel roads towards Okacuito Camp itself. This is the first time we were visiting the camp and we were quite excited to see what it has to offer. Upon arrival we made our way to the reception area where we checked in before making our way to the campsites themselves. We were really pleasantly surprised with the campsites. The area you camp on is a grass terrain, and something unique is that every campsite has its own lapa area, which is great. One of the lapa areas we had overlooked the dam in the middle, while the other one had an excellent view of the river. This truly is something special. The lapa area was also equipped with a fridge and a big spacious cooking area. But of course we'll do a full campsite review, so keep an eye out for that on the channel. After we got the camp set up, we made our way to the bar area where we enjoyed a nice refreshing drink and we were made to feel welcome by the owner. And the rest of the afternoon we just lounged around next to the river, admiring the breathtaking view, and we were once again treated to an unforgettable sunset. As always, once the sun set, we got the fires going and had a great braai. The next morning we were up nice and early because a few of us were going out on the river in search of tigerfish. We had the whole morning set aside for our quest to find a nice big tigerfish, and we spent about 4 hours on the water, and it was seeming like it was not going to happen once again. But the views from the water always stays breathtaking. And just as we started to make our way back to camp on our last cast, we actually got a nice big tigerfish. With high spirits we got back to camp, and we were planning on just staying at camp today, relaxing and just enjoying ourselves. And what a place we had to just enjoy ourselves and relax. Almost all of the campsites are situated on the edge of the river, with the lapa overlooking the river itself. It really gives you some amazing views. There is also a swimming pool and a bar area where you can go and cool down and relax on those hot Namibian days. Back at camp we were all just sitting back, relaxing and taking in the breathtaking view. As the day went by we got the fire started as we were treated to yet another breathtaking sunset. We got everything prepped and ready for tonight's braai before settling in around the fire, having a good chat and calling it a night. The next morning we were on the road nice and early. We were on the gravel roads that would lead us to the road that will take us to Rundu and eventually point the car's nose south and head to Mount Etjo. We had almost 700 kilometers of driving to do today, so we decided to be on the road nice and early. We had a fuel stop at Rundu before making our way down to Otjiwarongo, where we had a fuel stop and stocked up on some supplies once again. From there we headed to Kalkveld, where we got on the gravel roads that led us to Mount Etjo itself. After about 35 kilometers of gravel road, we reached the entrance to the lodge. It's a short drive from the gate to the lodge itself, and we actually saw a bit of game on the drive. Once we arrived at the lodge, we checked in for our campsites for our stay, and we had a bit of coffee and cake in the afternoon. You can see that the lodge itself is very neat and well looked after, and there is even a water hole where you can see some game. We saw some water bucks and hippo and springboks and an eland or two as well. It's a short drive back on the way as you came from the lodge to the campsites, and soon we arrived at the gate, making our way to the campsites themselves. The campsites are very neat and in pristine condition. They're also nice and nestled into the bushveld, so you really get the feeling that you are in nature. We got the campsite set up and then proceeded to relax after a long day of driving. Unfortunately, we were only here for the one night, but this is really a place I can see you can come and just sit and relax for a few days. This really is a place that makes you feel that you are in nature, and of course we will do a full campsite review on Mount Etjo as well. And as always, as night fell, we got the fires going and we all settled in next to the big fire pit, getting ready for another great braai. The next morning we were once again up nice and early as we had another day of driving ahead of us. It's always special getting to experience an African sunrise as you are on a gravel road. Today we had about 500 kilometers of driving to do as we were making our way down to Marantal. The first 40 odd kilometers of the journey is on a good gravel road, and thereafter you get onto the tar road, and it is tar road the whole way up until Marantal. We had a food and fuel stop in Okacuito before taking the road down south to Marantal itself. We are truly now in the final stretch of our journey, and tonight's stop will just be an overnight stop at Marantal as we make our way down to Cape Town. After a few hours of driving, we arrived at Marantal River Chalets, where we will be camping the night. After entering through the gate, we made our way to the reception area where we checked in for our stay. Tonight we had the 2 private campsites booked out for our group. Marantal River Chalets is a perfect overnight stop for us if we make our way up into Namibia or back down to Cape Town. But of course we will still do a full review on the campsite. We got our camp set up, and then a few of us made their way over to the restaurant area to enjoy a nice late lunch. At the restaurant area there is also a petting zoo where you can get nice up and close and personal to some of the animals on display. But we made our way back to camp where we settled in for tonight's braai. The next morning we had an easy start to the day and we made our way further down south. We had just over 550 kilometers to travel today, and we'll be staying at Growcery Camp next to the Orange River. We spent the morning eating up the kilometers through the south of Namibia, just stopping at Keetmanshoop for some breakfast and some fuel. And it wasn't too long before we were crossing the Orange River, making our way back into South Africa. After we got our passport stamped at the border post at Vuurstrif, we turned off the tar road and took the gravel road to camp itself. It's about 22 kilometers of gravel road, and when we visited it was very corrugated. But you do get a few amazing views on the road, especially when you're driving right next to the Orange River itself. And soon we were turning into Growcery Camp itself. After checking in at reception, we made our way to the campsite where we will be spending the night. The campsites were all neat and well maintained, and all of the campsites were covered in grass with a lot of trees to provide shade. And of course we quickly pitched up camp and started to settle in. We will of course do a full review on this campsite as well. After we got the camp pitched up, we made our way up to the bar area where we enjoyed a refreshing cold drink. It's always great to sit and relax after a day of driving. Back at camp, the sun was starting to set, and that of course means that we have to get the fire going. We spent our last night of the trip just sitting around the fire and reminiscing about the amazing time we had. We woke up to another breathtaking sunrise and with a heavy heart started to pitch up and make our way back to Cape Town. And as we were on the gravel roads making our way back to the main road, I really started reminiscing about the trip. I started thinking of all the new and interesting places we saw. I thought back to the amazing rhinos we saw at Kama Rhino Sanctuary. I thought back about the surreal experience of driving up to Kubu Island and exploring the island itself with all its beauty and majesty, and just exploring the emptiness and the vastness of the Mahadi Pans. I thought about the Chobe and all the great animal sightings we had there and the great awesome experience we had on the river. I thought back to the Caprivi and the peacefulness of Camp Kwandu and the relaxing time we had at Ngepi camp. And of course Okacuito Camp with our tigerfish adventures, and later on even Mount Etjo and the peacefulness of nature. And I just realized how blessed we are to travel Africa. And as I saw Table Mountain approaching, I knew we had one amazing adventure. As always, I just want to thank you guys for traveling with us these last few weeks. If you enjoyed the video, please go hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And I hope you have a few great trips lined up for you as well. We'll continue to share our experiences. And as always, happy camping until next time.